What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. Happy Halloween, and let me know if you're doing anything special for Halloween. We're going to be having some Halloween special guests here today. So definitely I'll tell you guys here about that here later in this video. So let's jump right in. If you're new to our channel or if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. And don't forget to hit the like button. I'll keep you up to date here with everything with stories going on here like this. House Republican lawmakers push permanent tax cuts amid soaring inflation, especially if they take over the House and or maybe the Senate. I seen a recent article here that said there's a 70% chance that Republicans could take over the House and the Senate. Um, Here's the details on this. House Republicans on the Chief Tax Writing Ways and Means Committee are seeking to make the tax cuts and adjustments enacted in the 2017 overhaul of the tax system permanent. This would be from the Trump tax cuts, which is kind of the name that's kind of stuck with it, that was passed through the reconciliation process, that was passed through only Republican votes. A move economists say would stimulate the economy at the same time the Federal Reserve is trying to rein in demand against 40-year high inflation. Ways and Means Republicans touted a proposal here this week that would extend tax provisions in the Trump administration's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the Trump tax cuts. It would renew a 20% reduction for businesses, the 20% tax cut for businesses, and maintain a higher standard deduction and extend lower tax rates for households. And maintain a higher standard deduction and extend lower tax rates for households. Another bicameral measure proposed by Representative Jody Arrington, Republican from Texas, Senator Pat Toomey, Republican from Pennsylvania, would allow machinery costs to be written off as tax deductions when they're purchased, as opposed to over time, and would effectively cost the government around $200 billion over 10 years. So that would add $200 billion to the deficit, or to the federal deficit. The tax cut would begin to phase out a huge hit to industries like farming, manufacturing, and this is a quote, and I'd just say business in general. They need the capital the most. I'd like to highlight Jody Arrington. He has a bill that will make full expensing permanent. Republican Vern Buchanan said during a presentation. A write-up of the bill says it makes permanent one of the most pro-growth policies in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, full and immediate expensing. A write-up of Buchanan's bill says it would create certainty for the pro-growth provisions. But economists say that cutting taxes and increasing the deficit at a time when persistent inflation needs to be tamed will only add fuel to the fire of price increases. Altogether, the tax cuts in 2017 law added $1.9 trillion to the government debt through 2028. This is where it gets a little tricky here, because, Republicans are always worried about the federal debt. But, when it comes to like cutting taxes for businesses and stuff, this kind of stuff seems to, they don't care about this, So remember, the 2017 Trump tax cuts had no pay-fors at all. They didn't obviously raise any taxes to pay for it, because it was all tax cuts. So it literally just went straight to the federal deficit, or the federal debt. It just added right onto the debt. Some Republicans' comments this week appear to openly disagree with the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes. Some Democrats are also disagreeing with this too. All of this big government interventionist policy in the middle of a recession, by the way, including new taxes. I'm not sure what new taxes they're talking about, has made real wages drop by $5,000. And here's the answer. Let's just pummel the American people more. Let's try to solve this inflation problem with higher interest rates. Let's try to reduce the growth of our economy instead of enhancing and letting loose the supply side. Yeah, so we're starting to see a lot of this. Now, remember that the Federal Reserve is technically a separate entity from the government. Remember, the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, was appointed by former President Donald Trump. He's a Republican, Jerome Powell is. Um, and Biden decided to keep him on. Guess he thought he was doing a decent job. And he, Powell was actually criticized at first for not raising interest rates sooner. Now he's being criticized for raising interest rates by some people too much. I, I guess you're damned if you do it and you're damned if you don't, right? So yeah, he was criticized for not raising interest rates too late. Now he's being criticized for raising interest rates too much. We're going to have another interest rate hike here in a few days, almost certainly, and probably another interest rate hike in December, and maybe even more interest rate hikes in 2023 as well. This comes as interest rates are already the highest they've ever been for credit cards. When we have more interest rate hikes, they're going to go even higher. Mortgage rates are already at 20-year highs. Mortgage demand, people buying homes, are already at 25-year lows. So the people that are now buying homes have dropped dramatically. So that has really brought down home inflation because people aren't rushing out to buy homes anymore. Same thing with cars. People, cars were selling for over asking price. People aren't rushing out to buy those anymore. So the prices have come down on those because they can't sell them for $5,000, $10,000 over sticker price anymore because they're just not moving. So incentives have actually come back on cars. Used cars have come down in price as well because they're not moving nearly as much. Yeah, so that has worked, but the interest is causing more on that. So, I actually, at first it was like, yeah, pretty much everybody that knows about finance and other countries all around the world were raising interest rates before the U.S. Everybody criticized the Fed saying, why aren't you raising interest rates? You got to stop doing this. And remember, they were doing their bond buying thing, which is really kind of it's a stimulus program of pumping liquidity into the market. They had to stop that and reverse track and raise interest rates. Now people are saying you're doing it too much. Yeah. Yeah, and people can't blame Biden on this one because the Fed is separate and he was appointed by Trump. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one because what do you do? What do you do? But honestly, I kind of feel like they need to pause for some time here and just let the interest rates. They need to pause them, not raise. I already know they're gonna raise this next interest rate hike already. It's gonna hurt even more. It's gonna raise the credit card interest rates again. We don't know how much it's gonna be. They're gonna raise it again. I think they should pause after this one and just slow the roll and let's just let it marinate for a little bit. Let's just see what happens. It's almost like we've been raising interest rates every month and we haven't even given it enough time to settle in. And you got to remember, I mean, the stuff like housing and cars we're already seeing stuff that's interest rate sensitive. Okay. housing demand's already at a 25-year low. It's working there. It's working there. So people aren't buying homes anymore. Things like food and gas, the demand for food's not going to drop. It's not interest rate sensitive. So I mean, maybe a little bit with credit cards and stuff, but like if people, I mean, people need food. They're not going to stop buying food. You know what I'm saying? So like, they need to just stop, because the people that are being hurt the most, very low income people and stuff, with credit card debt, it's just really hurting a lot of people. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Yeah, speaking of food here, the Kremlin, Russia, accused of weaponizing food in halt of the Ukraine grain deal. Imagine that. Russia and Putin going back on their word. Who would have ever thought that? Yeah. President Biden calls the move by Russia purely outrageous. So, yeah, this is part of the reason why we continue to see food prices go up. U.S. accusing Moscow of weaponizing food and suspending its participation in the U.S. broker deal allowing grain shipments to leave Ukraine ports. It's not happening, so we continue to see the grain prices around the world stay high. And this makes U.S. grain prices stay high as well, because just like gas prices and these grain prices are traded on a world basis. It keeps these prices high everywhere, everywhere. So even if we make our own grain here in the U.S., but we do import some as well, these prices are traded on a world basis. They're engaged in intense contacts aimed at bringing Russia back to the deal, but Russia don't care. They don't care. They said that it was halting the agreement for an indefinite period, citing an attack on a base in occupied Crimea that Russia blamed on Ukraine. The grain export deal, designed to make sure Ukraine agriculture products can reach international markets, is considered critical to global food security, given Ukraine's role as a major food producer of foodstuffs. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said in a statement, any act of Russia to disrupt these critical grain exports is essentially a statement that people and families around the world should pay more for food or go hungry. So there you have it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. Putin also recently mysteriously changed his mind, saying that there's, quote, no need to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, after previously saying that he was going to, and literally weekly threats. And if you know anything about Putin, it's kind of like he says one thing and does the exact opposite. Just like saying he wasn't going to invade Ukraine, he wasn't going to invade Ukraine, he wasn't going to invade Ukraine, and then literally invaded Ukraine like days later. So now Putin says there's no need to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Biden casting doubt on the claims. So now it kind of makes us wonder, is he just setting us up for he's actually going to use them? Because, he literally just went back on the agreement of the grain shipments. So, let's just hope, right? That's all we can do is pray and hope. And of course, Putin blames everybody else for everything, even though he's the one invading another country and shooting rockets at, homes and apartment buildings and schools and hospitals. He says the world faces the most dangerous decade since World War II. So there you have it. More than 40% of U.S. households will owe no federal income tax this year, down from last year, actually, according to a new analysis. So I'll break down how this works here for you. Here's the details on this, because some people pay federal income tax, but then get refunds and through various different programs. But here's how this works. More than 72 million American households, so that's households, so I don't know how many actual people that is, but it's probably over 100 million Americans, will pay no federal income taxes this year, making a large decline from last year, actually. This is really probably because a lot of people have gone back to work because of high inflation. This is why tax revenues are up in all the states and on the federal government, according to a new analysis. An estimated 72.5 million households, or 40% of total households, will pay no federal income taxes for 2022, according to an analysis from the Tax Policy Center. A share marks a substantial decline from the 59% of Americans who paid no federal taxes in 2020. That was underneath former President Donald Trump, and 56% who paid no federal taxes in 2021. Both were dominated by COVID-related shutdowns and restrictions. So this goes to show you that in any given year, or at least in the last 2 to 3 years, 40 to 59% of Americans paid no federal taxes. So this is crazy. I mean, this is just how our tax system works, right? The number of Americans who pay no federal income tax remains a hot political issue, with many Republicans arguing that more Americans should pay federal income taxes, and Democrats often arguing that many of the rich don't pay taxes. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here on this. Yet the real driver of the so-called non-payers, or those who owe no federal taxes, are tax credits and employment. During the pandemic, the number of non-payers surged as unemployment rose, along with tax credits and government payments. Howard Gleckman, senior fellow at the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center at the Urban Institute, say that 10 times fast, said people are more likely to owe no federal income taxes when they're unemployed or see dramatic reductions in income. The standard deduction, which effectively doubled after the Tax Cuts and Job Acts, is now $25,900 for married couples and $12,950 for single filers. So anyone earning less than those amounts wouldn't owe federal income taxes. So basically, for this particular section, low income earners earning under these amounts, for the most part, don't owe federal income taxes. Also, increases in the child tax credits and earned income tax credits, which is known as if you watch my channel, you know this, the adult tax credit for low income earners, also boosted the number of non-payers, because this is basically a tax credit check for adults, low income adults. Also boosted the number of non-payers, because you basically get money back for children and for adults, along with government stimulus payments. Because remember that the federal stimulus checks, or even some of these state stimulus checks, are basically money back to you. They give you money back, okay? Which is a form of a tax credit. If you watch my channel, you know this, because I try to explain this stuff in layman's terms. Remember that stimulus checks are technically one of the technical names. They have a couple technical names, are tax credits. Even if the federal stimulus checks are actually, you get them even if you're a non-filer. Remember, they had the non-filers tool. Remember that? Advanced refundable tax credits, even for non-filers in some cases, right? The two big reasons of the increase in 2020 and 2021 were the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the pandemic. Now, with unemployment at or near record lows, like I said, a lot of people went back to work because of inflation, and the pandemic's over, many of the credits and government payments ended. The number of Americans who owe some form of federal income tax in 2022 will rise closer to the historic norms of around 60%. So some people have gone back to work because the pandemic's over, unemployment bonuses are over, and inflation's high. Despite the widespread claim that it's the wealthy who pay no tax, the vast majority of Americans who pay no federal income tax are the low to middle income earners. About 60% of non-payers make less than $30,000. Another 28% make between $30,000 and about $60,000. Only about 0.6% of the top 20% of earners, or those making about 190,000 or more, will pay no federal income taxes this year. The reason for probably somebody making that high would be probably they have a significant like tax loss or write-off. You could see it's a very small amount. Maybe they had a significant write-off or something like that, a tax loss, or maybe they're married filing jointly, and it's a very, very slim amount of people. They would have to have a very odd circumstance. You can see it's a very small amount of people to do something like that. The stories you hear in the news are people like the very, very rare circumstances are people that are like billionaires, like Elon Musk. Now he recently had to sell billions and billions of dollars of stock, and when he did that, he's also going to pay billions of dollars in taxes. But there are some years where they don't have any income, because some years they don't take any income from their companies, and they also don't sell any stock. And in those specific years, they might not have any income. So if they don't have any income, they don't pay any taxes. But like Elon Musk just sold billions and billions of dollars in stock. And in that case, he's also going to pay billions of dollars in taxes, depending on how the math works out. But in some years, if Jeff Bezos, the owner and founder of Amazon, or Elon Musk, the owner and founder of Tesla and SpaceX, and one of the previous founders of PayPal, two of the world's richest men, in some years, if they don't have any income, they won't pay any taxes for those years. But for the years that they do sell billions of dollars of stock, then they will pay billions of dollars in taxes as well. So I hope that makes sense, right? I can't explain it any other way. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here in the comments. For the what's in the box here, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be opening that here later today. We're also going to be showing you guys here our Halloween costumes. So you guys can still guess here right now. So you guys can still guess. Guesses will still be valid here today. Right now until we open the box here later. So you guys can still do that right now. It's completely free to guess. I'm not going to go over the clues again, though, but you can watch the previous videos if you want to. And we'll be showing the winners here on screen, and you'll get to see my costume, my wife's costume, and my son's costume here coming up here in the next video. So make sure you're subscribed down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Click the subscribe button and the bell icon, and don't forget to like this video, and I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. And happy Halloween. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can also click here to see some checks that are actually going out to some people on or by or around Halloween, actually, believe it or not. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.